I've been breaking down game systems for 2 decades, and if there is one thing I've learned, it's that aesthetic is often a mask for a lack of mechanical depth. When I first saw Shadow of the Road, developed by Another Angle Games, the immediate red flag was the setting, an alternate 19th century Japan. We've seen a localized explosion of Sengoku and Meiji-era titles recently, but this isn't just another Ronin simulator. It's a tactical RPG that tries to marry the cold, industrial steel of steampunk with the ethereal horror of Japanese folklore. As a designer, I see this as a high-stakes gamble. You are essentially trying to balance 3 distinct tonal pillars: historical drama, mechanical fantasy, and supernatural myth, all inside a single cohesive tactical loop. If the math behind the combat doesn't hold up, the whole thing collapses into a pretty but empty diorama. But there's a reason this project caught the eye of Owlcat Games, who stepped in as publisher. Owlcat doesn't gamble on shallow systems, they thrive on complexity. By June 2026, we've seen enough of the alpha and the playable demo released last year to know that Shadow of the Road isn't just coasting on its visuals. It's attempting to build a friction-heavy tactical experience where every decision in the turn order carries genuine weight. The premise centers on a divided Japan where the East Nippon Company represents a creeping industrial menace, forcing players to navigate a world where traditional steel is being replaced by steam-powered monstrosities and ancient spirits are being stirred from their slumber. It's a compelling hook, but from a design standpoint, the real question is whether the shadow in the title refers to tactical depth or just a lack of clarity in its mission statement. Look at the combat, because that is where Shadow of the Road will live or die. This is an isometric, turn-based tactical RPG. From the gameplay footage and the demo released in July 2025, it's clear the developers are favoring a squad-based approach with a heavy emphasis on positioning. In a veteran designer's eyes, the most critical element here is the action economy. Many modern tactics games make the mistake of making players feel too powerful too quickly. Shadow of the Road seems to be pushing back against that trend. The combat encounters we've seen demand a meticulous understanding of unit synergy. You aren't just clicking on enemies until their health bars disappear. You're managing a tight resource loop where the environment and the specific yokai-infused abilities of your characters dictate the flow of battle. The inclusion of steampunk technology isn't just for show. It introduces a mechanical layer of gadgets and ranged options that must be balanced against the traditional, high-leverage strikes of samurai-inspired units. I've noticed a deliberate pacing in the animations and the transition between movement and action phases. This isn't a fast-paced popcorn tactics game. It's slow, it's methodical, and it punishes overextension. The design choice to keep the squad sizes relatively small is a double-edged sword. It rewards players who can maximize the utility of every single unit, but it also means that one bad RNG roll or one misplaced move can snowball into a total party wipe. That's the kind of punishing but fair philosophy that defines the best in the genre, provided the UI gives the player enough information to make informed choices. If the information layer is opaque, that difficulty curve becomes a wall. World building in a tactical RPG serves a mechanical purpose. It sets the stakes for the progression system. The primary antagonist here, the East Nippon Company, is a fascinating design choice. By positioning a corporate, industrial entity as the villain in a 19th century Japanese setting, Another Angle Games is creating a narrative justification for technological enemy types that break the standard rules of feudal combat. We are seeing enemies with firearms, mechanical armor, and perhaps even early-stage automation. From a design perspective, this allows the developers to throw rule-breaker units at the player, enemies that can attack from ranges or with frequencies that traditional units can't match. This forces the player to lean into the supernatural side of their own toolkit. The story premise isn't just about a war for territory, it's a war for the soul of the country, and that reflects in the party composition. You're managing a ragtag group of characters who each represent a different facet of this changing world. The success of the narrative will depend on how well these character backgrounds integrate into their skill trees. If the story tells me a character is a disgraced noble haunted by spirits, but their gameplay is just generic swordsmen, the immersion breaks. Based on the 2026 trailers, the developers seem to be leaning into specialized roles that make each party member feel like a unique tactical asset rather than a replaceable stat block. This is how you build long-term engagement in a story-driven RPG. You make the player care about the unit's survival not just because of their level, but because of their unique contribution to the tactical puzzle. Technically, Shadow of the Road is punching above its weight class. The art direction uses a high-fidelity isometric perspective that calls to mind the recent renaissance in CRPGs, but with a much moodier atmospheric lighting model. For a game releasing on PC via Steam, GOG, and Epic, the technical requirements appear aimed at providing a dense, detailed environment without sacrificing the clarity needed for tactical play. As a designer, I'm always wary of visual clutter. In an isometric game with steampunk elements, think pipes, steam, gears, and debris, it is incredibly easy to lose the grid or the pathing in the mess of the art. The demo showed a disciplined approach to environment design, though. The contrast between the Japanese countryside and the gritty metallic intrusion of the East Nippon Company's structures provides a clear visual language for the player. You know where you are safe and where the environment is hostile. The technical direction also seems to favor a high degree of interactability. If there's a steam pipe in the environment, you can bet it's a tactical hazard or a tool. This kind of systemic design, where the art and the mechanics are inseparable, is the hallmark of a mature development team. The technical polish seen in the January 2026 New Game Plus showcase trailer suggests that the delay from the original 2025 window was used effectively to iron out the kind of jank that often plagues smaller tactical titles. They are leaning into the strengths of the PC platform, ensuring that the mouse and keyboard interface is responsive and that the tactical overlays don't obscure the beautiful, albeit grim, world they've built. You cannot talk about this game without discussing the Owlcat Games' influence. As the publisher of the Pathfinder series and Rogue Trader, Owlcat is known for systems that are dense, often to the point of being overwhelming for casual players. While Another Angle Games is the developer, the DNA of a deep choice-heavy progression system is clearly present. The character customization shown in recent updates points toward a multi-layered growth model. You aren't just picking strength or agility, you're navigating skill trees that seem to branch based on your narrative choices and how you choose to interact with the world's supernatural elements. This is a smart way to handle progression because it rewards role-playing with mechanical variety. If you play your protagonist as a cold, tech-reliant pragmatist, your toolkit should reflect that. If you embrace the yokai, your tactics should change entirely. That creates replayability, which is the holy grail for the genre. The danger here is balance bloat. When you give players this much freedom, you risk creating solved builds that trivialize the challenge. Given Owlcat's track record, I expect a system that is robust, but perhaps a bit intimidating at first glance. For the veteran player, this is a dream. For the newcomer, the UI will need to do a lot of heavy lifting to explain the why behind the numbers. The progression needs to feel earned, and the pace at which new abilities are introduced will determine if the mid-game slog, a common killer of tactical RPGs, can be avoided. As of June 24th, 2026, Shadow of the Road is positioned as one of the most promising tactical entries of the year. The move from a vague TBA to a confirmed 2026 launch window was a signal of confidence from the team. We've seen the alpha tests, we've played the demo, and the core loop is solid. The game works because it doesn't try to be a mass appeal action game with tactical elements bolted on. It doubles down on being a tactician's tactics game. It rewards patience, punishes stupidity, and uses its unique setting to justify its complex mechanics. The decision to focus on PC platforms first, Steam, GOG, and Epic, shows a clear understanding of where their core audience lives. My professional judgment is that Shadow of the Road is a design-first project. It's not chasing trends, it's refining a niche. The biggest risk remains the balance between its three disparate themes, but the evidence from the latest build suggests a team that is in full control of their vision. They aren't just making a game about samurai with steam engines, they are building a systemic world where those elements collide with meaningful consequences. If the final release maintains the tactical rigor seen in the demo, this will be the benchmark for isometric RPGs in 2026. Check the official channels for the final release date announcement, but for now, the demo is the best way to see if you have the stomach for the kind of iron-fisted tactical challenge Another Angle Games is preparing to deliver. If you're looking for a tactical experience that doesn't hold your hand and respects your intelligence, Shadow of the Road needs to be on your radar. Head over to Steam to check out the demo and see if you can survive the first clash between Steel and Spirit. Follow the official developer updates for the final 2026 release date. Stay sharp, and I'll see you on the road.